Hello out there, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode, what promises to be a very fun one, of Explain of Thrones, the podcast where we talk all about the books, A Song of Ice and Fire, and how they relate to the TV show, which is currently airing. Tonight I've got two very special guests. One of them is already a regular, Mr. Nick Kanellis. Say hello.
Hello!
And then we have a newcomer, Mr. Ryan Vosness.
Hey, how's it going?
So Ryan, tell everybody a little bit about, how much you've read, what you know about the series.
I'm a book reader and a show watcher. Read the series twice, or read the books twice, I should say, and rewatched every season before the next season. So.
Wow,
kind of versed.
So you've gone through the TV show twice?
I've gone through the TV show, like, before each season I'd watch every episode that was out already.
Oh my god. I mean, that sounds kind of like what I was doing, at least for up to season 5. But then, I wasn't really a fan of seasons 5 or 6, so I haven't rewatched them since.
Yeah, they're a little better when you rewatch it after some time has passed, but not that much better.
Yeah, fair. So
what's binge watching called when you redo it?
More binging.
Is it still binge watching?
Yeah,
I think so. I think it's just like
you have a problem.
Yeah, it's like torture or something,
Especially if it's a TV show that's progressively gotten worse. But all right, before we get into the episode, because man, is there a lot to talk about, I just wanted to address our audience directly a little bit. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people that it sounds like I just hate the show and bash it, and that's really not how I feel at all. I'm just such a big fan of the books that, yeah, I do maybe have high expectations for it, and I totally understand that they no longer have George Martin's fantastic writing to go from. But if you like the show as it is right now, if you like the last few episodes, that's great. I think that's a fantastic thing, and I'm not trying to make anyone not like something that they liked. It's more that if the things that I'm saying, if the inconsistencies I point out and the weak character development, if that makes you not like it, then you probably didn't really like it in the first place. So, and also, this is just my opinion. It's going to be Ryan's and Nick's opinions as well. And that shouldn't really harm your opinion. The whole thing is for you to base it on what you thought.
Yeah, I love the show. You can't break me.
Well, and that's good. Nick and I were texting after the episode, and he had told me how much he loved it, and I was kind of like, yeah, I didn't, but I'm so glad that you could be on, Nick, because I really didn't want to have other people who shared my opinion on this one.
Sure.
Because then it probably would devolve into just, senseless bashing.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why people... I'm pretty forgiving.
That's fair. So, yeah, I guess... so, Nick, you liked it overall? You thought it was a great episode, good episode? What would you rate it, 1 to 10?
I mean, if Battle of the Bastards is a 10, that's, my favorite of all time.
Okay.
I'd put this at 7 maybe.
Wow.
I'll give it a 7.
That's actually a lot lower than I was expecting. And the reason I say that that's a lot lower is because it seems like the two camps are so far apart on this episode.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people seem to love it and a lot of people seem to hate it. Ryan, how about you? What did you think overall, and what would you rate it?
Well, what I've been doing for rating for this season has been, I've only been comparing it to this season, And I thought this last episode was like the best one of the season. And I was very entertained as a viewer. But that comes with the resignation that the show has just completely gone into this crazy alternate reality.
Yeah, exactly. And I would argue gone into an alternate reality where logic no longer functions. But
All right.
but you know,
I know we've talked about this. They have to squeeze so much into such a little amount of time.
yeah,
It's like
I mean,
Gendry got to the wall in like half a
he got to the
They were
wall
all on that
super
rock
fast.
for like
Yeah,
half a
he got to the wall super fast after they seemed to be marching for a really long time. Then
His first time in snow, mind you.
His first time in snow. Then sent off a raven that had to fly all the way to Dragonstone, which is something like 1,000 or 2,000 miles. Then Daenerys had to get on her dragons and fly all the way up to them, and she didn't really know where they were, so she had to find them. She had to scout for them. Yeah.
Can't the dragon sense the magic of Jon's Targaryen blood?
Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, but actually though, that is something I do want to kind of temper. Like I have been, talking about the teleportation and that pretty much the entire season, actually since last season even. But that doesn't really bother me so much because I totally understand. Like they are having to fit a ton of things in there, but the thing is, you could solve it so easily. You could just, like, say, for example, they woke up one morning, right, when Thoros died.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of them could have simply said something along the lines of, like, it'll be us soon. We've only brought enough food for a week, and it's been 3 days already, Just throw in a line to tell us how long they've been there.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was days.
I mean,
really?
Yeah.
I assumed it was one night.
Just because I was like, if Gendry, like, almost dead on that horse, I just assumed. I was like, yeah, they don't have a lot of time. I don't want sitting and waiting. I want to watch them.
Wait, you cut out a little bit there.
Sounds.
You don't want what?
Oh, I don't want to watch people, sitting and waiting. I want to watch them chopping up zombies. I think you're right. Like, Lion would have clarified if they're like, we've been here for so long. It's been like 4 days, but I just like pieced that in my own brain, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably days.
Yeah, and again, like the teleportation, the times that things take, it doesn't bother me as much as it seems to bother other people, and that's because I feel like it's kind of an easy criticism to make. For me, the things that really bother me are just the overall nonsensical actions of the characters. And in this episode especially, the complete lack of consequence to anything.
Yeah. Did you read the post about the guy that rewrote this season and how it would have made sense using the same actions that basically already happened, and how essentially starting from Jaime falling into the water, Daenerys captures Jaime and Bronn and uses Jaime as leverage to broker a meeting with Cersei, and Cersei being like, I don't believe that there's a greater threat, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, are you saying that was actually someone who wrote the script and it got changed?
No, this was
just a Redditor?
Like a fan.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's actually, because I did read that, but at first I thought you were talking about someone who had another script, and that would make me so mad if the show writers changed it. I did actually read that post, and that kind of reinforces my point that people keep trying to make excuses for the writers, like, A, they don't have George to go on anymore, B, They've got to constantly be thinking about budget and actor schedules and all that. C, they have to write it all in like a couple of months before they start shooting the next season. But that's just it. Like right there, you know, some random Redditor had an idea that was already much better.
I was surprised that they didn't, to me and Bron. Like I thought for sure that they were going to capture him, but
yeah, and
that's true.
I mentioned this on the last podcast. Like they could have compressed so much and made it make more sense if Tyrion, who we saw was watching Jaime run toward or joust towards Daenerys, if Tyrion is there when they surface, you know, and my suggestion was instead of capturing them, they have a little powwow where Jaime's like, where Tyrion's essentially like, I'm not going to turn you in, but you owe me. And then that establishes the meeting later, you know, rather than they magically somehow were able to find Bronn in King's Landing in order to set up the meeting with Jaime. Like, how did any of that come about?
Yeah.
And another thing, this might have been a Redditor suggestion. Why not like save that whole issue by having Daenerys at the wall? You know, like she could just be at the wall waiting with her dragon. There was no strategic reason for her to remain at Dragonstone.
Right.
And like she was.
How long does it take for a plane to fly across England? You know.
Well, Westeros is much bigger than England. First of all, second of all, I don't think the dragons fly as fast as planes.
Well, somebody did the math on it.
Maybe they do.
Somebody said,
"Oh yeah."
Like if you look at it as the dragon can fly because it has a human on its back. It can fly, let's assume it can fly at least as fast as like a World War II plane because they didn't have pressurized cockpits and all that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to argue, that flying as fast as a jet, like there's no way it could.
Right. So there is like some sort of like time constraint that you would have. It's not an hour.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, but again, the timing on it, I'm kind of okay with. But I think it's the fact that people like us who are, you know, like read deeply into things and want to like figure out the math and try and come up with theories and stuff. It's been a long time coming that you can no longer use that with the show. But I'm not really upset by it because it's just like, okay, whatever. They have to move the things into place.
Yeah. Everything takes as long as it would take to get there right in the nick.
Yeah, right in the nick of time because that's what's cool.
Yeah.
But and thank you, Nick, because that kind of perfectly segues me into what is a big problem for me. And and that's the whole battle. Like, they had random red shirt wildlings who were biting it, like, left and right. But, you know, none of the name characters seemed to be taking any damage. Tormund looked like he was about to get hurt. And then it's just like, nope, he's fine now. And then Thoros, you know, gets fucking bitten by a bear. And so, like, he was out early, but they were surrounded by so many whites, and the whites were doing no damage to them whatsoever. Like, they would have gotten swallowed whole.
That's kind of like the general zombie movie thing, right? I mean, zombies, from what I understand, they're super slow, and they don't really do much damage until they're, like, all on you, right?
Right, but there is a bit of a difference here in that the danger in a zombie movie is if they bite you, you turn into a zombie. Whites don't have that power, but, like, you know, go back to season 1 when Jon had to take on that white by himself. It was a kind of drawn out fight, and they established in that like Jon just stabbing him did nothing. You know, the white got right back up because it didn't need its vital organs anymore. Now, this, of course, something that I thought was their explanation. I will defend things that I think do deserve defending. It looked like they were using dragonglass weapons, and I guess the way the magic of dragonglass works, it takes a white down in one stab. Did you guys see that?
Oh, okay.
I saw Jorah with like two dragonglass
Jorah
daggers.
In particular, I definitely saw dragonglass daggers. I was always thinking, though, that the dragonglass was specifically for White Walkers.
Yeah, me too.
You know, because White Walkers are like a different species. They're not even necessarily undead. Whereas the Whites are literally just zombies. So I was thinking they would have kind of a oh shit moment when they try and like take out a White with one dragonglass stab. And then it's like, no, Whites are simply animated corpses. You know, you stab them with dragonglass, it's no different than stabbing them with a knife. But they didn't do that.
I guess maybe it works on... Does it work on both?
It seemed like it, but again, when Sam killed the White Walker, with the dragonglass blade, it like broke into a million little ice shards, but the Whites just seemed to be like going down. And it's like that eliminates so much tension, where if, you know, you have this army of the undead, what's scary about them is they're going to keep coming after you no matter what. And so it's nearly impossible to stop them. And then there's that many of them. And then none of our guys are getting injured.
Yeah.
And then, so like, they were doing way too well against the White Walkers, or the Whites. The Whites were not doing nearly well enough. Maybe this isn't something I should bring up because I'm definitely in the minority on this. I know we've talked about it, Nick, but I didn't really like the movie Moana.
I like Moana. Yeah.
You liked it. Ryan,
Does this remind you of like the coconut scene?
No, not at all. Ryan, did you see Moana?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I mean, I'm not gonna like spoil it, but I am gonna tell you what the final battle entails. Moana is up against like a giant volcano monster, and to me that dissolved away all tension, because if you're fighting something that is a literal force of nature that would just destroy you if this were a real battle, then I know right off the bat that you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like it's way more tense if they're having a fight with, say, 5 Whites, and some of those Whites are doing damage and actually hurting our guys, and one dies. If you put 10,000 Whites and surround 7 people, and then make me watch as 7 people fight them off no problem, it destroys any sense I have that this is a dangerous situation.
It's cool to watch a dragon burn through like 5 zombies as it does to watch a dragon burn through like 100.
Right, because
That's true.
That is absolutely true, and you know, I will give credit where credit would due, and I'll definitely.
You know, it's like those those urinals that put like they have ice cubes. You know, if there's like it's full of ice cubes, there's just like 2 ice cubes,
and you're just like, melt, you suckers. No, yeah. I mean, and I'll definitely try as this episode goes on to say like things I really liked. It is a lot of fun to see an army of the dead get mowed down by dragon fire, is it not?
Yes,
very satisfying.
Because like, the one thing I was thinking in the Field of Fire sequence a few episodes back was like, oh my god, this is awesome, but am I one of the like brainless fanboys? Like, she is just destroying dudes left and right. It's actually kind of catastrophic and kind of evil if you think about it. But then when it's the Army of the Dead, no problem.
Yeah, it's like, cool.
This is just awesome. No moral ambiguity here.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things, too, that I feel like the show has kind of gotten away from is all the books kind of really hammer in home, like, just how awful war is.
Absolutely.
And the show is just kind of like, oh yeah, cool, you killed those Lannisters. Like, oh cool, you killed the Whites. Like,
yes.
This is like mass destruction that's happening, and there's like no.
And it feels like
bearing.
they want you to be like fist pumping for it. Like,
right.
Like, and that really is the, I've said a few things about the things that bother me, but that to me is the number one problem with where the show has gotten, is that George Martin has essentially a message of peace that he's trying to bring with these books.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like the show has everyone, fist bumping and being like, oh yeah, kill those guys. Isn't murder awesome? Isn't violence and revenge, doesn't it feel so good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could spend a little more time on that. Like when Tyrion's walking through the the remains, like that's pretty cool. And I think they could have spent more time on that in the episode before.
Yes, sure. Absolutely. And like one of the other things I was thinking for that, just to sweeten it a little bit, just a small change, maybe they should have shown the group of Lannisters that they humanized in the first episode, Ed Sheeran's buddies.
Yeah.
Maybe they could have shown those. Yeah, that would have been. No, seriously, though. That would have been great. They should have shown all of those dudes getting burned alive because, like, they actually humanized them. And it was cool that they showed Tyrion doing that because Tyrion, is a Lannister and he's walking among, like, these were my men when I was leading the Lannister army and when I was Hand of the King, like, I probably knew some of these dudes. Like, that could have been even more effective, but I was happy that they did it. But also, like, it kind of felt like Tyrion was the only one who was affected by that. Like wouldn't you think that Daenerys would kind of be like, holy shit, like, this is kind of bad. Like, I just said that I'm not going to destroy cities, but even though these are soldiers, I just burn them alive. Like, that's the worst way to go.
She's kind of a hard ass, though.
Yeah, she is. She is, and I do feel like some credit that I will give them. But again, I think they could push it a little bit further. Is, in the books, you're kind of getting the sense that Daenerys could become the Mad Queen, and her sense of fire and blood and vengeance could turn over into straight up evil. And in the show, they kind of did that with, burning the Tarleys.
Mm-hmm.
But I still, like, most of the people I talk to who just, will always love the show, they were kind of like, defending her and being like, no, that was great.
She did say, she was like, these are your options. But yeah, I think they explored that all right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, they explored it all right. I'm not griping about that. Let's get back, though, to the episode that we just saw.
Oh, yeah, this week, right.
All right, so we've already kind of covered, like, my whole issue with the final battle. Then, so we're not really working chronologically here, but let's keep going forward from where we were at with Daenerys comes in, she rescues them, Jon decides he's gonna hold off some more whites, I guess. Like, why did he not just jump right on the dragon? Did you guys understand?
That's what he does.
Well, that's what the showrunners effectively said, is like, oh, this is just showing the character trait that he has. But to me, I was just like, it's like, you're a king. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're on this weird mission already, and, like, death is imminent. get out of there. What are you doing?
And it really didn't feel like there was any more threat from them, you know?
Right. Yeah, because they kind of backed off a little bit.
Right. They totally backed off with the dragon, and
we know they're not that fast because it takes them really long to get anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say it, like, I think that they should stop doing the inside the episodes at the end.
Yeah.
Because it really is just taking what already is disappointing me and making me a bit more angry about it when you hear them just, like, not even understanding their own scenes sometimes.
Well, you know what is unfortunate is I work with a lot of people who only watch the show, so we have lots of interesting discussions about it. But sometimes they're like, they don't even pick up on the things that the showrunners say were the point of the episode. You know, with the whole Arya, Sansa, Littlefinger triangle.
Oh, well, we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah. They were just like, oh, I had no idea that's what they wanted to convey. Like, I just thought it was weird.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Or back in, I think it was the second episode, the one where Arya runs into Nymeria.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she said, that's not you. And, you know, it was kind of confusing, but at least it was like, okay, not really sure why she said that, but at least it does kind of reinforce, like, Arya is a totally messed up person at this point. But then in the inside the episode, they were like, and that's a reference to in the first season when, you know, Ned is telling her about being a lady and she says, that's not me. It was like, that's such a dumber excuse. A dumber
Deep
reason. Yeah, and it feels like they've done that a lot this season where they keep on trying to, like, reference the first season. And, like, these characters have gone through so much changes, you don't really need to keep referencing the first season at this point.
Right.
But, yeah, so John did that, and you said, that they said it was his character trait. I mean, is his character trait stupidity?
I mean, it must be.
I think he's like... Oh, yeah, sorry, you go.
No, I was going to say, I feel like it must be because I know you liked the Battle of the Bastards, but I hated that. I hated that he just...
I did too.
Run straight in, like, you're going to take on, like, 30,000 dudes or whatever it was? Like, get out of here. Like, nowhere would I... That was just so out of the realm of believability for me that for him to do it another time after getting bailed out by the Army of the Veil, then it's like, dude, what are you not learning at this point?
And he's already died.
I don't think he cares about himself, and I think he has a little bit of a death wish. And I don't think it, you know, like, I agree with you guys. It's like, that's dumb. But I think he's dumb, and I think that that's okay. He's, like, so honorable. You know, to me, it's like, that is his character, is that he is so worried about everyone else that he will always sacrifice himself, even though if he could just take a second and be like, hey, actually, I'm kind of the most important guy here. Maybe I should get on this dragon. They would all die for me. But, you know, the other side of that coin is the reason that he is that way is because he would always die for, like, any of them.
That's fair.
That's fair. Honestly, congrats, Nick, because you kind of made me come around on that. I was about to just... I was about to just lay into Jon Snow big time. No, but you're right. And... I mean, I've said this before. I think that John in the show is just so bland. But I do kind of like what you're saying there, that it may come across as stupidity, but it's really more of just, like, nobility to a fault. You know?
Yeah.
Kind of like a Jesus complex.
It's like my favorite scene of the season is that conversation between him and Daenerys where, you know, you've talked about George R. R. Martin and, like, other books exploring sort of that difference between, like, being part of and the self, you know, like that's kind of like that contrast.
Right.
Where, like, when Daenerys is talking about herself, she's like the hero who leans a little bit towards the side of, like, being too individualistic. And then there's Jon, who's the hero who leads to the side of being a little too much just like for the people, where it's like Davos speaking for him. He won't even speak for himself. And I think it's sort of like that character flaw that it's like, yeah, they're both still a little too far on each side.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm with you on that. And you know, to tie it back to the books, which is technically the point of this podcast, but while the show is on, it's at this point so hard to connect him to the books. But that is kind of Jon Snow in the books as well, is that he, especially in the 5th book, once he's the Lord Commander, he is trying to basically please everyone and finding that that's really not working. Like, he's trying to save the wildlings. He's also trying to like keep his Night's Watchmen happy. Stannis at one point, this happened in the show too, I believe. Stannis basically tells him like, look, I become Jon Stark. Like, I can legitimize you. Declare me your king. Become Jon Stark. I'll make you Lord of Winterfell. We'll go after Ramsay Bolton together. And like, you know, he's offered, and he even thinks about this like, that's everything I ever wanted. Like, I always wanted to be a Stark, and that's something, you know, that's been hammered home that I could never be. But I've also always wanted to be the Lord of Winterfell, and that's something that there was no way I was going to be. So I'm kind of with you, Nick. Way to go.
All right.
But so there was that. But let's get to the next stupid thing.
Okay.
And maybe you guys have read the defense of this. But first,
I haven't read anything.
First, let's assume that it can't be explained. Why did the Night's King throw his javelin at a dragon that was who knows how far away in the air
instead of Drogon?
When Drogon is right in front of him with heroes on his back. He could end the war right there.
All right. I got a couple... First of all, my big game, and I don't know how this is true, but it's the theory I'm pretty sure of. I think that the Knights... So I think that there's an element of, like...
Wait, you cut out again. You think that the Night's King what?
Is, like, Bran from the future.
Okay, well, that's pretty awesome that you just came up with that without reading, because that's actually the explanation I was referring to that I've read.
Okay, because there's like something, they kind of look alike even.
Yeah, I mean, you guys saw the, his face has changed from season 5 at Hardhome. Have you guys noticed that?
The Night King has?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't explicitly notice, but
I did, and again, my first reaction to the episode was just revulsion, and part of that was that I think he looks a lot doofier now. Like, before he looked legitimately frightening, and now if you look at the side-by-sides, he looks a bit more human now, and that does play into your theory, Nick, that he's Bran. He also does legitimately look more like the actor who plays Bran's face than he did before.
And then if that's not true, my, like, you know, in the moment, well, maybe this is it, justification would be the actively just mowing down his guy. So it could be that he's like, okay, this one's mowing down my guys, I'm going to hit it. Or long throws. Or maybe he, like, just wanted to have a dragon battle because everybody would love to see Ice Dragon versus Fire Dragon.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, if he had hit Drogon, I'm sure he would have made him into a white. You know?
Yeah.
It just...
But then just wins, and doesn't he want to toy with them?
Does he want to toy with them? I mean, if we're not... Okay, we'll get into the time-traveling Bran theory in a second. if you don't have that, then it really, I can't think of any logical reason. Like, the only thing I can think is he wants a better fight, so he wants to keep the rest of them alive.
Could it be that the other dragon is actively mowing down a ton of his guys, so he's like, I'll stop this one.
I don't think so.
Then I'll hit the
I don't think
other
so,
one.
and here's why I don't think so. He can easily make more guys. You know, all he needs is dead bodies. Like, we saw that at Hardhome. It's not like it's a difficult process to make a white. He literally lifted his hands and hundreds rose up.
Yeah.
Is there some limit to how many whites he can make, though, do you think?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Just because, like I said, we saw him like raise his hands and just turn every dead body at Hardhome into a white.
Mm-hmm.
But this does kind of get into the interesting theory that I think is definitely the case in the books, and I think the show will probably do it. And they already, in this past episode, kind of showed that the White Walkers, you kill a White Walker, the whites that he created all die. And so I think it's pretty clear that they're telepathic, essentially, and they're controlling all of these whites. And that's actually a theme that George Martin has explored a lot in his other short stories. Nick, remember how I told you about the book Meat House Man on one of the episodes we were on?
Yeah, which one is that, though?
It's the one with the corpse fucking.
Oh, right, okay. How could I forget this?
Right, how could you possibly forget?
That one, yeah.
So just real quickly, I finished the story, and it's actually a really great story. If, you're going to read just only a couple of his short stories, I would recommend Meat House Man if you have the stomach for it, because it is kind of one of his most, for a dude that writes almost entirely fucked up stories, it's one of the most fucked up. But essentially the premise is that in this, future where people are on different planets, some people have developed telepathy, and in order to do, it's not like, it's like most George Martin fantasy where it's dark, like it's not, some glorious Star Trek future or X-Men future. They're using this telepathy to make corpses do the jobs that would be too difficult for humans to do, like work in mines and, just all sorts of things. Anyway, the main character in Meat House Man is one of the more strong telepaths. So while everyone else can control one corpse, and some can't even do that well, he can manage a team of like 6 corpses. So, George Martin has explored this idea of like, if a telepath is powerful enough, he can essentially multitask.
Mm-hmm.
And, that would kind of give us the idea that maybe he can only create so many. But like I said, after we saw at Hardhome, and with how big that army was, it seems like there's really no limit to how many he could make.
I mean, I wonder, do you think that at Hardhome specifically, he was just trying to make a show to Jon Snow?
And be like afterwards, he was, man, I think those guys left because that was, that took it out of me.
I don't, just because of how many whites we saw in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't the Hound or Jorah or someone even say, like, he's the one that made all of them here or something?
Oh, yeah, Derek.
Yeah, Barrick, exactly. So, yeah, I think there's really no limit to his powers. And that does... so now we can get into the time-traveling Bran theory. That does feed in to that idea, because it is very clearly stated in the books and also the show now that Bran is the most powerful telepath in the world. I don't think they've addressed it in the show, but in the books, Bran is the only one who can warg into a human when he wargs into Hodor. Like, was that in the show at all? Did they address that?
He's the only one we've seen do it in the show.
Yeah, but
I mean, I guess they don't like explicitly say.
Yeah.
But in the books, didn't they talk about how, like the rules of being...
Well, Varamir Sixskins.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to get into. In the prologue to Dance with Dragons, which is, to me, the most, like, revealing prologue, it tells you so much, as you say. It kind of, like, lays down the rules. So, long story short, there's this wildling named Varamir Sixskins, who is, to his mind, at that point, the most powerful warg in the world, because he can control 6 different animals at once. And, you know, he talks about, like, the other wildlings who can only control 1. He talks about how he forced out his mentor out of his wolf and became one of his wolves. And in it, he says that, like, his mentor told him, you know, it's an abomination to try and take over a human. But in the prologue, from Varamir's point of view, he actually is dying. And as he's dying, his body essentially becomes like a massless consciousness, just like floating across the land. And he actually spies Bran and Jojen and Mira with cold hands, which is pretty cool. But he then tries to go into the spearwife that he had, the woman. And she has a seizure as a result. And, like, he's describing how she's rejecting him. Like, she's not allowing him in. And, you know, he's fucking Varamir Sixskins. He's the most powerful telepath to his mind. When Bran goes into Hodor, Hodor also has a seizure, but Bran's still able to do it. And then Bran's able to do it multiple times and keep going back. And it's really kind of disturbing because Hodor clearly does not like it. You know, it's very clearly painful, especially mentally, but also physically for Hodor. And Bran kind of describes how the more he does it, Hodor begins to, like, as the two are sharing the same body, as he's in his mind, Hodor begins to retreat almost like a I think he says like a cowed dog who's been beaten too many times, and go into, like, essentially his happy place in the corner of the brain and let Bran just control him. So it's very clear that Bran is the most powerful telepath in the world. So that does kind of feed your theory that he could be the Night's King as well, and that's how he's able to control all of these whites.
Well, and I think that ultimately, I think the Knight's fully evil. He's sort of the, like, the more extreme balance to everybody else wanting to be on the Iron Throne. This threat's the only thing that's going to unite the kingdoms potentially, right?
Yeah. That would make sense that Bran is the Night's King, you know, that he actually traveled all the way back and was turned into the Night's King by the White Walker, or by the Children of the Forest, as we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read into this theory, Ryan?
I read into... I mean, there's a couple of variations of it, but up until recently, I really didn't consider it. And I know that we were just complaining about how we can't use this show as kind of like a guide to theorize about.
Uh-huh.
But with the Night's King, I feel like it's starting to give some of that evidence to it. I mean, it is interesting how the Night's King instantly spots Bran when he's in, like, a raven, and we still haven't this season seen Bran's arm.
I mean, that could be explained by, like, he's just another telepath and he knows that the ravens were warged. And yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. But also remember, in the books, we really know nothing about the White Walkers at this point. The show, you know, has been... not even just in the recent seasons where they've kind of had to show the White Walkers a lot more. But even earlier, that scene in, I think, season 4, when the White Walker takes Craster's baby and like they're all there and they turn him into another White Walker, like that's not in the books at all. So we really have no idea what the White Walkers are, why they're attacking now, any of that.
Right. Or even how many.
Yeah, or even how many. But, I mean, I'm going to be honest, just the theory as a whole, I don't like it. I really don't like it. Because that, to me, like, I could definitely see it happening is the other thing. It makes sense to me, so I'm not, like, upset by it. But here's why I don't like it. I don't like any sort of explanation for a story that is, it's been the will of the Force, essentially, that it would turn out this way. Like, you know how when people are trying to apologize for the prequels, like, one of the things they say to make everything make sense is like, oh, well, it happened that way because, you know, the Force wanted Anakin to become Darth Vader. Or, oh, it happened that way because Palpatine was controlling everyone's mind the whole time. It's like, I hate that, you know? Yeah. I want a story.
It's a cop-out.
It is. It's a total cop-out. And at this point, it feels like they'd be using it to cover stupid plot holes, like throwing the javelin at the other dragon. Because if this is not if this theory is not true at all, then it's very clear why they did that, because they didn't want to kill all their main characters.
Right. Well, especially when, you know, it's the javelin throw happened first, like
yeah, and then they pulled out another.
And then he misses Drogon, like, so close.
Oh, and yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's just like, well, to me as a viewer, that felt weird, because I was like, that dragon's so much closer to you and so much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it did seem like he swerved, you know? He learned what Rickon didn't know during the Battle of the Bastards. But, I mean, even then, it was kind of like, yeah, he knew to swerve right then, somehow.
Serpentine motion, like...
Yeah, and
just zigzag.
Jorah almost falls off, but not quite.
Yeah.
It was just so ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, the time-traveling Bran theory, I could definitely see that being where this is leading, and it's one of those things I remember, like, years ago when I first got into Game of Thrones. This might have even been before I had read the books. Someone was telling me, like, yeah, I mean, George Martin said in an interview that, you know, the story is going to involve, like, space and time and, like, altering timelines and stuff. I haven't looked it up to see if George Martin actually said that or if this person was just telling me that. But then this person was like, yeah, I mean, my theory is that Bran's going to go back to when Ned was in the cells before his beheading and stop that from happening. And I said, God, I hope that doesn't happen, because that would be so much worse. Like,
yeah,
I don't like when, you know, a story is, oh, someone manipulated it to happen that way from the beginning. I like even worse when, oh, the story didn't even happen.
Right.
It's like,
well,
no, go ahead.
The whole Bran is the Night's King theory is like, I don't know, like, it's the thing that I dislike about it is I don't like the theory that Bran is all the other Brans that ever existed, like Bran the Builder.
Yeah, I've heard that one too.
And all that. It's just kind of like,
and Brandon Stark somehow when he's not his personality at all.
Right. It's just, I don't know. It just seems really weak. And, you know, I like the idea that Bran was influencing the Mad King, and which is what ultimately drove him mad. And like those kind of aspects I think are kind of cool. But,
I do, yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you know, but maybe the whole thing is just, everything is happening because Bran fucked up, essentially. Like, he dabbled too much and
he Hodored the world.
yeah, and it's just like, you know, his hubris got the best of him, and he just, you know, couldn't save anything. And when I hear George R. R. Martin say, like, oh, the ending is going to be bittersweet, I don't necessarily think about John and all that. I think, you know, it would be pretty bittersweet if Bran at the end realizes, fuck, I killed everybody. Like,
yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like, yeah, the ending, Bran is definitely, you know, going to be tied to the final ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be more that, I mean, only the books, of course, not going to happen in the show, but
Right.
I think it's going to be more that the Children of the Forest are just using him because they're going to be the ones to go back and, like, totally destroy humans. Because, remember how I was saying that, like, Bran is the most powerful telepath?
Mm-hmm.
And in the books, you know, Bloodraven, the three-eyed crow, he's, you know, one of the first humans to be absorbed into the weirwood net. And it's very clear that they're like a hive-minded organism, essentially. So they then gained all his powers. And I feel like they wanted Bran to become a part of the weirwood net so that they now have the power to warg humans.
Interesting.
But going back to what you were saying, there are some cool things in, you know, Bran's time travel plot, like what you just touched on. I really like the idea that he's the reason the Mad King was so fucked up. And also, you know, when they showed Bran kind of like flashing through things, and they showed the Mad King saying burn them all, I realized, like, oh shit, maybe Bran sent the Mad King a vision of the army of the dead, which is why the Mad King kept saying burn them all. So that means it was a misunderstanding. Jaime thought that he was going to burn King's Landing. He was actually having this weird green-seeing vision. And so, like, Jaime killed him for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Like
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there are cool things in there. But yeah, I really hope, like, it doesn't eliminate the story, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, anything else on Bran or on the Whites? Should we turn to Arya, Sansa, and Winterfell?
Yeah, the last thing I just want to say on Bran is I feel like with the show, it's got to be very hard to get across visually something that all happens inside a head.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I feel like the worst thing that they've done is just marginalize Bran. Like, we just spent seasons watching him struggle to get to where he is, and he got there, and it's just kind of like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I'm a jerk to everybody, and it's
I'm
like
totally zoned out. Yeah,
and I get it. Like, you've essentially downloaded like the history of time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you've seen some real fucked up shit, but like, I just don't know how they're gonna salvage it because.
Yeah, it feels like they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, like when Littlefinger was giving him that dagger, like, well, that should have been the moment. I think we didn't need this Arya Sansa season 1 drama brought into season 7. You know, it's like it's totally unnecessary.
Yep. No, I totally agree. Yeah, and that's actually a great segue because for an episode that was essentially 2 storylines only, the Arya, Sansa, and Littlefinger one, we didn't even see Bran.
Right.
You know, neither of them even talked to him. Like, aren't they still his caregivers? He's still crippled.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's pretty much a missed opportunity. And just one more thing on Bran is the reason it's so frustrating as well. And this is something Preston Jacobs, my favorite YouTuber on Game of Thrones, addressed. It's because we didn't see the transformation happen. We didn't see Bran go from being Bran to being this catatonic three-eyed raven. Mm-hmm. Like that happened off screen essentially. So
yeah, they've done a really poor job with the off-screen things in the show overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And people would argue like, well, they don't have time. It's like I can think of so many scenes that they could cut.
I didn't need a Grey Worm sex scene.
Right.
That's like 10 minutes right
there. That's literally the first one I thought of when I was just saying that. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the Winterfell plotline because at first I really hated it. And then I was talking to a friend a lot about it today who was kind of shocked that I hated it. Mm-hmm. And the more we were talking about it, like she made some good points, but also I feel like much like if the Night's King is a time-traveling Bran, that does explain away that plot hole. I feel like this one has a possible redemption, being Arya's been doing this, been like essentially torturing Sansa and doing all of this because she's really playing Littlefinger. Mm-hmm. And she knows that, she can't tell Sansa, she can't let her in on it because Sansa won't act appropriately if that is the case. And, that I guess would make it work. The problem I have with that, though, is that the last time, remember last season, most people's least favorite episode where Arya gets stabbed? Mm-hmm. Like, everyone thought, like, so many, show apologists were all over Reddit being like, well, look, there's evidence that that's not really Arya. That's right. Someone else's wearing Arya's face that she set up to make that happen.
I was full in on that, by the way.
I was too, because I was like, oh, that's cool. That would make sense. And then no, it wasn't like that at all. Right. Arya just got stabbed and somehow miraculously healed enough to go on a chase scene and, fight the waif who was established was a better fighter than her.
Right.
Like, the fact that happened makes me feel like, people trying to say, like, no, check it out. It would make sense that Arya's doing this. And people have even, come up with full explanations, like pulling lines from other seasons. Mm-hmm. And it just, I really hope that is the case, and it's something cool. I'm just worried that it's not. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that... So I had this argument all season with my coworker because she's a show-only fan and...
Still loves the Arya plotline?
She loves it. She's like, why is Arya being so creepy to Sansa? Like, I don't understand. And so we talk about it, and for reference, she didn't see anything wrong with Sansa whole holding out the Vale army and basically kind of like subtly digging at Jon the whole time, but
pissed me off to no end.
Right. Yeah. So with Arya, it's just like she's just like, why is she being so weird? And I think that Sansa's going to come out and Sansa's going to come on top and Arya's going to have to be punished, in some sort of manner. And I'm like, that makes no sense to me.
No.
Like, why would I care for that? And I don't know. It just like Arya's plotline has devolved so much.
Absolutely. It was one of my favorites and is by far my least favorite now.
Yeah. I mean, what was the whole point of, like, I can get, so to reference the books, like when she's blind, like that's a big period of time for her.
Yeah.
And in the show, I get it. Like, you can't have,
Right.
a huge amount of time. But then to have it go all to waste, and she does something stupid and gets stabbed, and then this weird fight scene, and it's like, so you come to peace with that, and then she comes to Winterfell, and this is after killing,
who knows how many people. Yeah, she should be psychotic at this point.
Exactly. And the thing that's weird about something you said earlier too is my problem with the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, is that Anakin, they should have made Anakin like this disturbed child. Like, he should have been torturing animals or something, because the way he flipped a switch and just, killed all the younglings was so out of character.
It happened out of nowhere.
Exactly. So this is like what's happening with Arya is it's just like she's had all this training, and it's like, for what? To just prance around Winterfell and
not only that, like, the things that they've shown her doing, the abilities weren't things she was trained on.
Right.
Like, she's now a better sword fighter than Brienne somehow, when the House of Black and White specifically made her give up her sword.
Right.
Like, she hasn't learned to sword fight since Syrio Forel, and it's very clearly stated that, like, he's barely gotten much training in on her. There's no way, in the course of a few months that she's an expert fighter from Syrio.
Right.
So, like, the House of Black and White, what they taught her was more about essentially being a spy, and instead they're turning it into, like, no, she's a badass fighter. And what I love about the book Arya plotline is she fails constantly.
Right.
She's like really bad at doing it, and she's just got that grit and determination to keep trying. But with this, like, it almost feels like they're trying to have it both ways, where they know that people loved Arya in the first few seasons because, she was spunky and cute, but also, like, had a very clear, good moral sense. But then now they've shown her be, fucking crazy murderer sometimes, but then she's spunky cute Arya sometimes, and it's like, we haven't been told enough about, like, what her real motivations are or anything. Like, why is she digging into Sansa this much?
Right.
I mean, if you go back to, season 1, when Robb gets the letter from Sansa, Catelyn gets told about the letter from Sansa, their very first things are, she was under duress. Like, Cersei made her write this.
Right.
And, then Arya tries to be like, I saw you up there, and, someone pointed this out on Reddit, and I actually went back and watched the scene. Like, Sansa tried to run towards Ned to stop the beheading.
Right.
She was being held by a grown man in armor. Like, she did what she could. And not only that, the biggest hypocrisy of the whole thing is Arya was Tywin's cupbearer.
Right.
Like, she literally served the Lannisters.
Or she could have used any of her 3 kills on anybody important.
And Gendry even said, like, why didn't you say Tywin Lannister?
Right.
There was just so... I will say real quick, though, to not go too hard on the bashing, that is my favorite change that the show did, was making Tywin, the one with Arya.
Yeah,
rather
absolutely.
than in the books, it's just Weiss or Chiswick or someone, and then Roose Bolton. The whole sequence with her and Tywin, like, gave you so many great scenes for both characters, so much good character development.
Yep.
It even informed us about other characters. Like, that's when Tywin said that he, Jaime is dyslexic, and that he used to sit and read with him all night. Like it really endeared both of those characters in a big way.
Well, and it tied, that scene in particular really tied what was so cool about Arya is because Jaime didn't, Tywin didn't give up on Jaime and made Jaime tough it out to learn to read.
Right.
Much in the same way that like Ned or Arya would handle it, so it was, that's definitely one of the best show additions.
Great show addition. But yeah, back to this episode, again, the only way it really makes sense is if Arya is purposely fucking with Sansa, and like someone even had this whole theory, like that's why she brought up, the game of lies. It's that she's now lying to Sansa a couple of times and trying to see if Sansa can pick up on it, and but if this is the case, and once the next episode comes out, hopefully it'll resolve it. Hopefully we won't have to wait a whole year to find out if this plotline is worth it. Then awesome. I will give the show, I will take back all my hatred of it. But watching this past episode, I just kept scratching my head.
Well, so much of it would have been solved by having 2 seconds of what we're assuming is off-camera interaction. Where is any scene where the 3 children, reminisce and explain the life that they've gone through? Like, I feel like if I hadn't seen my sister in 10 years...
Yeah, they did it super quick when they first got back together. Like, Sansa essentially just said, I've been through a lot.
Yeah, like... At that moment, you would have explained, like, oh, and man, like, Cersei made me write this fake letter to Rob, and, like, I had to do all this stuff, and then I got raped, and it's, like, all this stuff, and it's, like, so then this whole plotline would be irrelevant, but they didn't do it, and they're kind of like, hey, remember, she did this one thing in season 1.
Yeah, and like, some of the things Sansa was saying was absolutely like, yeah, don't you get it, Arya? She did the only thing she could do to survive, and she did survive, and now she's the Lady of Winterfell. And Arya's like, I would have died before that. No, you wouldn't. You would have done what you needed to do to survive.
Right. Well, the other counter line that I didn't like was when Sansa was like, you wouldn't be here if it weren't for me.
What?
The veil came...
to
the fight because of me. And I was like, yeah, thanks for reminding me how mad I was at you for withholding a huge army that for some reason nobody was like, hey, what are the Vale up to right now? Like, let's see if we can get them in.
Yeah, just real quick, the thing, since we're maybe the only 2 people on this podcast or in the world that didn't like the Battle of the Bastards, the scene before the battle when Sansa's like, no, Jon, you've got to listen to me. And Jon literally says, okay, what is your advice? And she goes, I don't know, just don't do what Ramsay wants you to do. Except hold him off, don't charge into battle. I've got an entire army on their way.
Yeah, it was... I had a lot of arguments about that because it's just like so ridiculous. Like,
it really
he was like Jon is, like we were talking about earlier, to a fault. He doesn't want to make the decisions. He doesn't want to have to do it.
Yeah,
and he's willing to listen. It's just if you're gonna come at him with some weak sauce, he's gonna be like, okay, well, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, and I seriously thought that. I mean, for a number of reasons, but biggest that it would be more in Jon's character. When they were having that whole thing, I thought Jon was going to just say, no, I will not be the King of the North. Sansa is the heir to Winterfell. She has the leadership qualities. She wants this. She is the Queen in the North.
Right.
But instead, Jon's everyone's favorite character. He's Blandy McBlanderson.
It's, a lot of it, it's like we were saying earlier too, is just so many of Jon's chapters in the books are just internal because he's a quiet guy.
Yeah.
And it's
him just going over like, what on earth am I supposed to do?
Yeah, and where is Ghost? Like, why can he not be around? Like, I just don't understand.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because all the CG budget is going to dragons this season.
Which, yeah, the dragons are awesome, but I just feel like the first meeting with Jon and Daenerys would have been way cooler if he was like, yeah, I've got this badass wolf.
The dire wolf that's, 5 feet at the shoulder.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I get it. I've got cool animals too.
You're so right. Like, that would have been so much more awesome if the meeting of Ice and Fire literally had a dire wolf and a dragon there. Yeah. Like, yeah, that would have been awesome. But, I will chalk that one up to, like, okay, they had to make concessions.
Yeah. And that's fair.
But there was a point we were just talking about. What was it? Arya and Sansa and their whole little spat and not making... Oh! Sansa comes in and finds, all the faces in there. And Arya's just like being cryptic about it. Like, they're my faces. I use them to become people. I could become you if I wanted to. Like, how has she not... There weren't like rules of Fight Club to the House of Black and White, and she straight up left there, so she's not beholden to them if there were rules.
And nobody else knows what the fuck those rules are. Like, nobody's heard of.
Yeah.
Like, Sansa definitely is like, I don't know where you've been in Bravos.
Yeah. But the Faceless Men are like a known thing. Maybe Sansa wouldn't know about it, but multiple characters are like. In the books, like, we could hire a Faceless Man, they're way too expensive, or something like that. But, just to be so cryptic and weird about it, it's like, it feels like, unless this is all Arya's brilliant plan, which has never been her character to be a brilliant planner. It's always been, she's impulsive and acts in the moment. But if this is part of her long, brilliant plan, then okay, I will give this a pass. But if it's not, why on earth was she talking to her like that and being all weird about it? Why wouldn't she just be like, I've been trained as an assassin?
Right. Just real simple.
Like, I am a trained assassin now, and magically can wear people's faces and become them. And, I mean, she did say, like, I can use their voice and all that, but Sansa's just looking at her with credit to Sophie Turner as an actress. That was exactly the face anyone would make with the way that Arya was talking to her, where she's just like, what?
I love all of the memes that have come out of where it's like everybody got a superpower except for Sansa, and she's like, what?
Why not me? My family's so weird now.
Yeah. But
No.
yeah, I hope that they do resolve the Arya Sansa thing in like a way that makes sense to the canon, and not just like a really weird sisterly spat that has taken place over like years.
Yeah, and I will, again, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the show. I will allow, since they're so about, like, season 1 is everything now, I will allow that they are essentially saying, like, even after all they've been through, Arya and Sansa still hate each other, and this is, two sisters who never liked each other, blowing things out of proportion, and just being mean for no good reason. Like, okay, I can understand that. I don't like it, but that's not necessarily a writing error. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I just think that in the books, I think when Arya's in Harrenhal at one point,
my God. Yeah.
She mentions internally, like, I I wish I could even hang out with Sansa.
Right, yeah, even Sansa, I would, yeah, exactly, because it really should be that after all they've been through, they have each other's back, through and
Mm-hmm.
through, and instead they're suspicious, like super suspicious. I didn't really understand why Sansa was all weirded out by Arya being a good fighter. I would think she
Right.
would be more impressed and
Right.
happy, like, oh, good, my sister can hold her own now. And instead, she was like, what has Arya become? And it's like someone who could be very useful to you.
Right.
And
Yeah, I mean, Arya could become, like part of her security detail or something, It's like,
right, exactly, which would make perfect sense.
yeah.
That actually reminds me of the thing I was trying to come up with. The sequence where Sansa sends Brienne away.
Oh, yeah.
Melissa and I had both like taken a quick break, a bathroom break. We had paused HBO. We got back, we started it, and that was the next scene. And I literally said, did we miss part of the episode? Like, what caused this?
Yeah.
That made no
Yeah.
sense. Like, Littlefinger, I mean, I guess it was supposed to be that, like, she doesn't trust Littlefinger, but she should still trust Brienne.
Right.
And Littlefinger's idea was really good. Hey, get Brienne to be the arbiter in your little sibling rivalry here. Because, like, she swore an oath to both of you. She's going to be impartial. Arya and her already, have bonded a little bit, so it's not like, Arya will fight her immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did she send Brienne away? Now, counterpoint to my own point. If it is that this is all Arya's game, her brilliant thing, maybe she was wearing Sansa's face when she sent her away.
Oh, wow.
Because she did kind of a weird little look at Brienne after she left. And that's always been kind of an indicator in the show that someone is not who they seem to be.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, not a lot of people thought of that. And my first thought, my counterpoint to my counterpoint to my counterpoint, my first thought was, wait, but she couldn't do that. She doesn't have Sansa's face. Sansa's not dead. But then I remembered, the show being the show, it doesn't obey the rules and the logic that the book follows.
Right. It's like we don't know what the terms could be for that.
Not only that, they've even established that you can wear the face of someone else who's alive. Remember when she's at the House of Black and White and Jaqen, she thinks she kills Jaqen and
Right.
like they swipe the face, they tender through, they keep swiping right, and eventually it gets to Arya's own face.
That's true.
So, it is established, like, you can somehow wear someone's face who isn't dead, which I don't like at all. Has it changed from show to book, or book to show, but that's something that could be it. Like, Arya could have purposely sent Brienne away.
So do you think that there would be a scenario where Arya taught Sansa how to do this? Like a really weird swap, like what was that Lindsay Lohan movie?
Wait, what do you mean? Do you mean like
so like Sansa
Arya's let Sansa in on it?
Yeah, so like
I
she
think
would say,
the only way
I'm gonna wear your face, like you wear my face, and just see how
you think that Sansa would
Littlefinger
have
is
to
being
be like a willing participant in it,
right.
Not
I mean,
really. I more of think it follows in line with Arya has, like, you don't have to be, because, Arya was not aware that they could put her face on someone when that happened. So I think it's more of that Arya has this long, elaborate plan where she's going to say all these things. Maybe she's been, this credit to the Redditor who was writing this, who I don't remember the name of, but he or she did say that, like, there's a good chance Littlefinger has been spying on them in this whole spat, and so that's why Arya has been all weird about it. And because you'd think, like, well, then why is she being mean to Sansa for no reason? It's like she's playing up Littlefinger's belief that his plan is working.
Right.
So,
well, and I read all the season leaks that happened.
Don't tell me.
No, I won't.
Okay.
I won't spoil it. But I just don't see exactly how they're going to resolve this to get to either the point that was leaked or some other solution. I mean, I feel like in all situations, Littlefinger's game is just going to have to end at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I've been predicting Littlefinger's death this season for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually really happy the previous episode when he started this little scheme. Right. I was like, oh, thank God they gave Littlefinger something to do. He's just been staring creepily for 5 episodes, or for God knows how many since, season 5. But, yeah, I mean, I don't... Again,
what is Littlefinger's endgame? Like, really, like he's gonna have Arya and Sansa fight, and she's gonna jump into his arms. Like,
yeah, I mean, everything about Littlefinger, and even in the books, even though it's a bit more clear, like that he's just doing it all for power. Even in the books, Littlefinger is a real mystery. But that's what I love in the books, is that he's doing so much and it's so mysterious. But you're right, in the show, like, it doesn't really seem why he's doing it. I mean, I guess if I were to give their answer, it's that he's an agent of chaos and he plays off of chaos. Mm-hmm. So all he tries to do constantly is get people to fight each other so that he can keep climbing. But I don't know. I mean,
like, it was cool seeing the scene of him talking to the other lords in the north.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, that's a power move.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what Littlefinger should be all about.
Right. And, it's really weird. I'm not sure if he's... Like, I saw some theory that was talking about, like, Littlefinger recognized Arya's fighting style because his family's from Braavos, and I'm like, come on, the dude like grew up basically in Westeros, like he's not gonna recognize that.
No, but I buy that just because Littlefinger. Remember earlier when I said, in the books, faceless men are brought up. They discuss in book 1 hiring a faceless man to kill Dany. Mm-hmm. And Littlefinger is actually the one who says, you know how much they cost? So I do buy that Littlefinger knows enough about Braavos, and like where he comes from to know like what water dancing looks like.
Okay.
I'm kind of okay with that, but they showed that, what was that, like the second episode? They showed that, but they haven't really done anything with it. Mm-hmm. It was just Littlefinger looks knowingly. And that kind of feels like my overall cautiousness with the whole Winterfell plotline. Mm-hmm. Is we've been tricked so many times before. We try and put in this brilliant plots and theories, and we try and read into it, all these things, and then the last 2 seasons have shown us there's nothing really there.
Yeah, I hope it gets better than it gets worse, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I will repeat to anyone who feels like we've been doing nothing but bash this episode, you probably haven't gotten this far in the podcast. But, I will fully say right now that if the Winterfell plotline does have a really cool resolution, and I do think that like Arya having this whole plot would be a cool resolution, I will take back all my hate for it. I will say right now that, like, way to go. But again, as we saw with, Arya getting stabbed in the other season, and last season with Marjorie and Tommen and the High Sparrow, like, I thought there was a plot going on there, and there wasn't. They just all got blown up, and then with...
Well, to be honest, the blowing up didn't necessarily bother me. It was the lack of acknowledgement.
Right. No, exactly. It's not that it bothered me. It's that it felt like we don't know what to do with these plots, so we're just going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
And another example, frickin' Ilaria Sand killing Doran Martell. Like, Doran Martell is one of the biggest schemers in the books. And, she just killed him off because, like, they didn't know what to do with Doran. And her reasoning was so stupid. She killed them because she doesn't want Dorne to be ruled by weak men anymore.
Right.
But it's like...
She doesn't really have, like, a claim.
Exactly. Like... Dorne doesn't follow, like, a succession that allows the Prince of Dorne's brother's ex-girlfriend to become the Princess of Dorne. Like, it made no sense. Like...
Yeah, the thing is, did you see the quote from the director of the last episode where he addressed, like, some of the concerns and criticisms?
I saw that he addressed it, and I honestly did not read it just because I felt like it would make me like it even less.
I think that for the people... So I've been reading this quote to some of my friends that are very much supporting of the show.
Okay.
And he basically says, like, that he saw a review where somebody couldn't get past the airspeed velocity of the Raven. And he said, if the show was struggling, if it wasn't finding an audience, I'd be up in arms about that and trying to press back. But it actually just made me laugh. You've got a dragon that's bigger than a Boeing 747 with 7 people on its back, and you're worried about the speed of the Raven being believable. Okay, we're obviously not doing our jobs correctly for you, but it seems to be working for a lot of other people. And to me, it's kind of like a slap in the face, because it's like, okay, so because some people that maybe aren't reading as much into it as, say, you and me,
right?
And they're enjoying, like, the Avengers style action of where everything's falling into place very easily. Why would you dismiss, like, your core audience?
Yeah. No, exactly. The thing that makes me the maddest when I see people being apologists for the show is when I literally saw this was like a Reddit post. The blame is solely on George Martin for not releasing the next book. Fuck you. Fuck you so hard. The reason he hasn't released the next book is because he makes everything follow logic and make sense, and that is really hard to do. He makes it so that, like, the best writing is where you let your characters act in a situation the exact way that that character would act. And that becomes difficult when you want the plot to go in a certain direction and they might have to do something out of character. So good writers know how to then alter it so that it's still in character what they do and they get the plot to where they need to go. Bad writers, namely the show writers, just simply, right around, like, cover it up. Like, just say, yeah, you're on sale all the way around the continent. What? like, this is the thing that frustrates me so much about, the answers to these complaints. We've already, on this episode of the podcast, described a couple of ways that you could simply write around that, simply make it make sense. And that is really annoying for him to say that. It also reminds me of one time the actor who plays Sam was on, like, some late night show,
Mm-hmm.
And he said he got a question at a con that was like, how come Sam's still so fat? I mean, he's been up at the Night's Watch. He's been physically exerting himself for a really long time. He's been not eating too much. Shouldn't he have at least lost some weight? And I honestly heard that and was like, that's kind of true. I mean,
Right.
even in the books, you know, they haven't said that Sam has lost weight, and he probably should have by now. And it would be kind of cool to include that, you know, that like Sam is starting to like trim down, living the life of a Night's Watchman.
Right.
But the actor's response was, it's a show with dragons and you're worried about my weight. And it's like, no, you're missing the point completely.
Right.
Like, what makes Game of Thrones good is the solid logic, the real world consequences, the characters who feel like real people, who act in the way that real people do. And this past episode has thrown all of that out the window, I feel, more than any of the other episodes have done.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like it kind of, you know, sums up everything we've just gone over. The chain at the end of the episode.
All right. What do you got?
Were you not like, wait, the Army of the Dead has been carrying around a giant chain?
You know, to be totally honest, the chain didn't even register to me that it was so out of character for them until my second watch. And then I was like, wait, where they made this chain? Like, where did this come from? Like,
have they been carrying it since Hardhome? Like, did they get it from a ship at Hardhome? Or do the White Walkers actually have the knowledge of how to mine iron and smelt it and forge this huge chain? Is that what's taken them so long to walk from Hardhome?
So when thinking about that, the only big chain that we know in the story is the one that Tyrion made.
Right, that awesome bit.
Right.
I totally understand why they weren't able to do that in the show. I allow for that, but for those of you who haven't read the books, Tyrion throughout book 2, it's actually Cersei who had the wildfire idea.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrion has been building this chain the entire time because, and this also ties back to like George Martin's attention to detail. He actually has a map of King's Landing and Blackwater Bay so that you, the reader, can understand how this is working. And he's been forging this giant chain that Stannis' army, once they try sailing up the river, he pulls the chain up so that they all get caught. And it essentially strands them so that they can no longer attack with their ships. But go ahead, what were you going to say?
No, I mean, I was just saying that's the only chain that I know in the story. Like, did they find like this chain just laying around somewhere? Like, did they get close to King's Landing? And you know what I mean? It just like none of it made sense of where this chain came from.
None, absolutely none. But and you know, once again, it could have been written much better. They didn't need a fucking chain. Here's what you do. Night King, you know, much like in Hardhome when it's kind of silent afterwards, you cut back to the lake. Night King is walking out onto the frozen lake, puts his hands out, and either you cut to underwater and just show the dragon's eye open. That's it. That's all you need. Or if you want to have an awesome fucking CG moment, you cut and you don't cut, you keep on the Night's King, you pull out, and the fucking dragon bursts through the ice and soars off.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, it's like you really didn't need a chain.
Right. And I also don't understand why he had to touch the dragon.
Right, that too. And that's what some people, told me when I gave this idea. And I said, but we've never seen that be a thing. That's never been an aspect of the White Walkers raising the whites. They've never had to have physical contact.
And I saw some posts talking about, but the dragons are intelligent, like he needs to like work into, and all this like really mental gymnastics. And I'm like,
never needed to touch a thing to warg into it.
Right. It just never made sense. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to end on this, because I feel like it very much sums up, even though it's not a huge thing, it's really a kind of small thing when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It does sum up the overall issues with the show. And since we're wrapping up here, I will say, though, if you still like the show, that's great. Fantastic. Continue to like the show. I'm not trying to make you dislike it. But please see, what makes Game of Thrones so good is no longer an aspect of the show anymore.
Right.
And yeah, that's really all there is to it.
Yeah,
so
it's exactly true.
Yeah. So, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think we covered quite a lot.
I think so too. Well, Ryan, thank you for being on. I want to thank Nick again. He had to leave partway through, as I'm sure all you listeners noticed. And from our throne to yours, this is Explain of Thrones.